The city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is one that teems with various displays of American history. The original capital of the U.S. before Washington, D.C. was adopted, Philly is home to the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, where both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were debated on by the Founding Fathers, and the Museum of the American Revolution, among many more sites. Located in South Philly is one of these sites, the Ben Franklin Institute. Named for the Founding Father, this museum details a history of America's technological story. And of course, who could forget about the railroads? Christened the Train Factory, the Institute dedicates a corner of its museum to showcasing pieces of America's railroad history. There are a pair of smaller, older steam locomotives that call the museum home, these being Eastwick and Harrison No. 3, a 440 built in 1842, and Braithwaite Milner & Co., an 022 British locomotive built in 1838. These two live in the train factory, in addition to other smaller train exhibits, like a wall explaining different types of railroad cars and the bust of one of Baldwin Locomotive Works' company presidents. However, the museum's most popular attraction, when it comes to the railroad scene, is the behemoth that is Baldwin Locomotive Works number 60,000. $60,000, nicknamed the Baldwin Boomer, was built in 1926 as a response to Lima Locomotive Works' new superpower steam engine, the A1 Berkshire. In the heat of the Roaring '20s, American Railroad needed powerful locomotives that could traverse a variety of systems with speed. The Berkshire, a 284 design, had the pulling power of 69,400 pounds of tractive effort and could run at speeds upwards of 70 miles an hour. With the need to compete, Baldwin worked on an experimental design meant to emphasize strength and efficiency. While the Berkshire was a relatively simple design, using a conventional boiler with a larger firebox and extra trailing wheels to support the weight, among other things, Baldwin decided to get, shall we say, a little funky with their new engine. This new engine took a complete U-turn from the relatively compact 284 design, utilizing a 410-tube wheel array. Coupling this with the weight of 318 tons, the locomotive was already limited to only the heaviest and straightest traction. However, that wasn't all, as it boasted three fancy features. The first being that it used a water tube firebox, which operates sort of like the inverse of a fire tube with extra steps. With a boiler pressure of 350 pounds per square inch, it successfully traversed 100,000 miles, although the water tubes were prone to bursting in the firebox. Another interesting aspect of 60,000 was that it operated as a compound locomotive. Compounds recycled steam by using it twice in different sets of cylinders. These types of locomotives were popularized in the Mallet articulated design. While 60,000 was proven to be more efficient with the compound steam, ultimately, railroads were not interested in its extra complication. The final unusual aspect of the Boomer was that it had three cylinders. The cylinder in the middle powered the second set of drive wheels and provided low-pressure steam to the two outside cylinders. Between fall of 1926 and 27, the Baldwin Boomer was tested on several major railroads. At the Pennsylvania Railroad's Altoona test plant, she was placed on rollers for inspection and ran on freight service between Enola Yard and Harrisburg in the Trenton Cutoff, where she maxed out at 7,700 tons. She was then pushed even further on the Baltimore and Ohio's Pittsburgh division, home to the famed Sand Patch and 17-mile grades. On the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, and the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe railroads, 60,000 proved herself as it was tested against the railroad's respective 210-2 locomotives, mainly demonstrating its efficiency in fuel consumption. The Southern Pacific Railroad tried to shake things up even more by converting the locomotive to oil. After testing on passenger and freight service, the oil conversion stayed as she paid a visit to the Great Northern Railroad. However, experiments on oil were unsuccessful. 60,000 was soon converted back to coal and sent home. Although 60,000 proved itself in a major area, fuel efficiency, outperforming hometown locomotives of its host railroads, and could meet the demands of speed and power, boasting a top speed of 70 miles an hour and 4,515 horsepower, ultimately, the engine was retired in 1928. Further production was not asked for by other railroads, as its special quirks made it an overcomplicated maintenance nightmare. Not to mention its sheer size prevented it from being used on many systems of track. Overall, 60,000 serves as a lesson that bigger is not always better, and we don't always have to reinvent the wheel when trying to innovate. Sometimes, expanding on simpler concepts is the way to go, as seen with the widespread success of the Berkshire. The Berks were so successful that Baldwin even decided to make a few of their own. Donated to the Franklin Institute Museum in 1933, the Baldwin Boomer continues to put visitors in awe, reminding them of a bygone era of big steam ruling the rails and the economic promise of the 1920s.